Welcome to the channel. This is Scott Fusco. So here's what we're going to do today. I'm going to show you every single open chord that you need to know as a beginner, and I'm also going to show you the 4 basic types of chords that form the basis of all music. 99% of the chords that you encounter can be simplified into one of these 4 chords. I'm going to show you how you can play those in the most simple movable shapes possible. Okay? Let's just talk briefly about what exactly a chord is. A chord is when you have 3 or more notes and you play them at the same time. If you play 2 notes at the same time, that's called a harmonic interval. The only exception, or really it's a misnomer, is if you play a power chord. That's only 2 notes. We call it a chord, and that has more to do with the fact that it functions as a substitute for a triad, which is a 3-note chord. So very simply, I'm going to do a deep dive on music theory, but I'm not going to do it this video. Here's what you need to know as a beginner. We have triads, those are 3-note chords, and then you have 7th chords. Those are 4-note chords. So pretty much any chord that you play on guitar, you could play a 5-note chord, a 6-note chord. You can always simplify it to one of the 4 chord types. And the 4 chord types are major, minor, augmented, and diminished. Okay? So let's just start off with the open chords, and then we'll get to that. We're going to start off by showing you the simplest chords that you can play on guitar. This is great for children. So the first chord is E minor. We're just going to play the top 3 strings. Second chord is going to be C major. I'm going to put my index finger on the 1st fret of the B string. Play the same 3 strings. Next chord is going to be G7. I'm going to add in the D string on this one, and I'm on the 1st fret here. Another chord you can do for little kids would be this. This is a G chord. I'm playing 4 strings, D, G, B, and then the high E string. Another chord you can play is E major. Just play the top 3 strings, but put your index finger on the 1st fret. Okay? A major, you can do this. 2, 2, open. A minor, 2, 1, open. All right, so starting with A major, you have this chord. So I'm playing the open A string, 2nd fret on the D, 2nd on the G, 2nd on the B. And you could see with this one, it's hard to get all your fingers right next to the fret, especially if you have big fingers. So generally with a chord like this that's a little tricky, if you can get at least halfway, then you're generally okay. Now, here's what you should try to do when you learn a chord. Play the notes one at a time. Make sure they're all ringing, okay? So in this chord, we're not playing the bottom string, okay? You can play the bottom string in this chord, but we're not, and I'm not going to get into the theory behind it right now. So if you play the chord and it sounds like this, you see this finger is too far back? So you have to try to, a lot of times you have to move, just kind of turn your, rotate your shoulder out, and that will allow you to get more flush with the fret. See, if I'm like this, it's tougher. See how my hand is moving? So anyways, that's the A major chord. And, you know, if you don't know any of these, just do a Google search. You can find chord charts on these, very simple. Now, A minor, here's A major. A minor looks like this. So I'm just moving this note back here from A major. Playing the same 5 notes. Okay? Now, another thing to be aware of is if you have big fingertips, you want to take a look at the size of your fingertips. Okay? Mine are pretty small. but some people have very, very thick fingertips. It's going to be difficult for you to get all of the notes to ring out, and for some people, anatomically, it's impossible to get every note to ring. So if you're in a situation like that, there's a couple things you can do. One is you can get a guitar that has a wider nut, okay? So this is like a standard nut width, but they do make guitars that are like this big or even that big. Like specifically classical guitars are going to have the widest nut. Another thing you can do if you have big fingertips, this is kind of like a whole different thing, but basically once you learn about music theory, you can figure out which notes are important to play and which ones you don't have to play. And I'll give you some feedback on that. So basically, we make small adjustments for people like that. But going back to the chord, A minor, here's something you need to be aware of. If you try to play it and it sounds like this, you hear that sound? What's happening right here is the E string is just gently being grazed by my index finger, okay? So if that's happening, you have to get more on your fingertips. If you recall in the earlier lesson, I talked about when we play single notes, we don't want to be completely on our fingertips. But when we're talking about playing chords, you really have to be as on your fingertips as possible. So make sure you cut your nails. You can even file them a little bit. And then you really want to imagine that there's a nail that is being nailed into the fretboard. You want to come in at as close of a 90-degree angle as possible. Because the flatter you are with the angle, the more you're going to hit the string underneath it. Okay? So when you learn these chords, what we're going to do is we're going to play what is called an arpeggio. You're going to play the notes of the chord one at a time. Okay, it's also called arpeggiating the chord. Now, try this. We're going to actually... we're going to rake through all the strings here. Okay? Now, another thing you can try to do is learn how to strum with it. A strum is more of a snap. Instead of hitting the notes one at a time, we're trying to hit them all at the same time, so you have to really snap. So when you play a chord that we're not playing all the strings, it's tricky just to strum, in this case, 5 strings. So generally what you want to try to do is mute whatever string you're not playing. So I can take my thumb and I can gently lay it over this string, which will mute it. Okay? So you want to make sure that the note is not ringing. You don't want to hear this. See, that note is almost ringing. Or there I have a fretted note. So you have to find exactly the right angle. So here's how I would practice it. Take your hand off the guitar. Try and put it down on the notes. You can play the arpeggio. Make sure everything is ringing. It sounds good. Take a look at my middle finger here. See how it's in the middle here? If you have big fingertips, it might be pushed back a little bit. So just make sure that that note is ringing. Also, if you're playing on an acoustic, you have less forgiveness. You have less margin for error. So you really have to try to get close to the fret. Let's keep going. So we did A major, we did A minor, A7. Here was A major. A7, I'm just going to take that middle note off, okay? But I'm going to change the fingering. I'm going to go index finger on the D string, middle on the B, both on the 2nd fret. I'm going to play the same 5 strings. Okay? You can give it a rake. You can do slow rakes, faster ones, and then you can give it a strum. See, when I'm strumming, I'm muting the bottom string because it's too difficult to strum, especially if you're strumming hard, to try to not hit the E string. You're never going to be consistent with that. You have to learn how to mute. Okay? So there's your A7 chord. Let's go to, there's only one open B chord. It's a B7. This is what it looks like. So 2nd fret on the A, 1st on the D, 2nd on the G, B is open, E string is the 2nd fret. Okay? I'm not playing the E string, so I can mute it with my thumb. That's B7, 4-note chord. Let's keep going. C major. So I'm on 3 on the A string, 2 on the D, open on the G, 1 on the B, open. C minor, we don't usually play open, but if you wanted to, you could play this. We're just going to play 3 notes here. Ring finger on 3, index on 1, open G. Okay. Now, the C7 chord, this is what that one looks like. 3rd fret, ring finger, 2nd fret, pinky on 3, index, open. Again, I'm muting this string. All right, moving to D, we have D major, open D string, 2nd fret on the G, 3rd fret, 2nd fret. That's D major. Now, if you look at D major, and you imagine that there's a mirror here at the 2nd fret, if we just take that mirror image, this is D7 here. So D7 is open D, 2, 1, 2. D minor now. Open, 2, 3, 1. All right, moving to E, you have E minor, open, 2, 2, open, open, open. And pay attention to the fingering with these. Make sure you're using the right fingers. Now, E major, when you know that chord, you just put your index on the 1st fret. Okay? E7, you're going to take the E major and take your ring finger off. Okay? There's your E7. F chord, technically not an open chord, but you should know it anyways. So I'm playing 2nd fret on the G, and then 1 on both of these. So you have to do a bar. It's a mini bar. So see that this joint here in my finger is flattened out. You don't want to look like this. It's hard to get pressure if you're like this. So this chord is probably going to take you a while to get it, okay? Anytime you struggle with a chord, you can always simplify the chord. Like, see this F? Instead of playing all 3, maybe you just try playing these 2. And you do that for a week, 2 weeks, however long you have to be able to get that. Once you got that, then you can try putting this one down. Once you have that one down, you can try putting this one down. So the full chord is 3rd fret, 2nd, 1st, 1st. F minor is going to be this. 3, 1, 1, 1. Okay? There's another chord that you can play. F major 7. This is common. So it's just like F major, except we're playing the open E. now if you want to play F7, you can play this. So I'm going 1, 2, 1, 1. And this is a full bar here. So if you see it from the side, when you do a bar, you want to try to use the side of your finger. You don't want to play it flat like this. Use the side, you get more pressure. Okay, so that's a simple F7 chord. Let's go to G. G major. So I'm on the 3rd fret, 2nd, open, 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 3. G7, 3, 2, open, 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 1. G minor, we're not going to play. So those are all of your basic chords. Now let me show you the movable chords that you can do. If you take that F chord that I showed you, and we're just going to play it 3 strings right now. This chord is what we call a root 1 chord. Okay, so when you have a chord, the note of the chord, that's called the root of the chord. So in this case, the F major chord, the root is the note F. So when I call it a root 1, that means that that note is located on the 1st string. So here's F. So when I play that there, it's F major. If I move it up a fret, now it's F sharp major because this is F sharp, right? So recall from the chromatic scale, if you don't know that, check out the playlist in the description. It's the first video that I did, the chromatic scale. So with that one shape, I can play any major chord music. F, G, A, B, C, D, E. I can keep going. F, G, F, E, D, and everything in between. So because it's a root 1 chord, say I want to play an F sharp major chord. All I have to do is find F sharp on that string and play that, okay? Now, let's talk about a minor chord. So, if you recall, the F minor that I showed you was this. So here's our minor root 1 shape. F minor, G minor, A minor, B minor, C minor, D minor, E minor. Now, the other 2 basic types of triads are augmented and diminished. So if you play the major, I'm on A here. If I put my ring finger down on the B string on the 6th fret, see that? That's a root 1 A augmented chord. It's also a good idea to start getting these chords in your ear a little bit. Just understand kind of what they sound like. A major chord, what does that sound like? Well, it's pleasant, right? A minor chord is a lot darker. The augmented chord is, I would say that it's unsettling. Now, if you play your minor chord, I'm on A here. Remember that D7 chord we played? If I play these 3 notes, that's my root 1 diminished chord. So this would be an F sharp diminished chord. G diminished, A diminished, B diminished, C diminished, etc. So those are your 4 basic types of triads. So with those chord shapes, you can literally play almost any song if you know how to simplify what you're seeing. And I'll just give you the basic way to do that right now. I can get more in depth on it later. Say you have, well, let me just show you how to play a 7th chord, root 1. Remember the major chord? If you just bar the D string as well, that is a dominant 7th chord. There's different types of 7th chords. I'm talking about a dominant 7th, okay? So this is it's also called A7. A dominant 7, A7. A7, G7, F sharp 7, F7. Now we did it over here. Remember the F7 I showed you? That's just a root 1 movable shape. So anytime you have, this is what I was going to say about chord simplifications. Anytime you have any sort of a 7th chord that you don't know how to play, you can just chop off the 7 and play the triad, and it'll sound fine. It may not sound as detailed, it may not have all the nuance, but it works. If you're in a band situation, you can always do that. If you see something else you don't understand, like a 9th chord, an 11th chord, a 13th chord, if you can figure out what the triad is, you can just play the triad, okay? Now, it gets kind of hard, so I'm going to have to do a separate video on exactly how to do that with specific examples. So, without question, the hardest thing for beginners is working on the transitions, which is getting from one chord to the next. So, I'm going to give you some tips for how to do that. A lot of it is just going to be make sure that you have proper technique. That's number one. Accuracy is paramount. Garbage in, garbage out. If you play a C chord and it sounds like this, and then you try to go to a G7, that's not really effective practice, okay? So make sure that you're getting all the notes. If you have big fingertips, you may not be able to get all the notes. At the end of this video, check out the section that I have for people with big fingertips, okay? But what you have to do is you have to systematically work through every combination of these chords. So let's just take two of them. Let's take C major and A minor. This is what I would do. Play the arpeggio. Make sure everything sounds good. If it doesn't sound good, you have to figure out what's wrong. Like, say it sounds like this. Hear that note is muffled? See, my middle finger is right on top of the fret, so I got to move that back. Let's try it again. Hear that tinniness? I'm not on my fingertips enough here. Another thing that might happen is you're not pressing hard enough. Like if it sounds like this. Hear how that note? The seal is, I'm not pressing hard enough. So that's another thing to listen for. All of that aside, let's just take a C and an A minor. Okay, that's good. Now, here's what you want to think about. Are there any pivot fingers? Those are fingers that are shared with both chords. So with the A minor, if you play that, you'll notice that two of the fingers from the C are in the A minor. So instead of lifting all of them, leave those two down. Just going to move this one finger. There we go, back. Now let's try another transition. Let's try C to G, okay? Now here, I got to change my bass note. I'm on my ring finger. I got to go to my middle. Make sure you always put your bass note down first. Never do this. It's putting down the bass note. There's another reason why I recommend it. Say you're trying to get your fingers down and you can't get there in time. Say I go to the G and I can't get there in time. I can probably get that note down in time. So at least I can play something. I can play the bass note rather than playing nothing, okay? Now, you notice when we go from the C to the G, there's no pivot fingers here. So after you do the arpeggio, lift, switch, and you just literally do that hundreds and hundreds of times, okay? And instead of strumming, give it a slow rake and listen as you do it. Do you have a tendency of muting certain strings? which chords are giving you problems. If you're not getting the note to sound clean, you shouldn't be working on transitions. You should be working on your technique to get the note to sound clean. Let's try another one, C to F. You can see here, all I have to do is lift the ring finger, move the middle finger down a string, and then flatten. So C, F, C, lift it up, F. So once you get the accuracy and it sounds good, you have to just brute force. And you want to go slow with this. You want to go slow, make sure your technique is good, it sounds good. And then what you can do is you can time yourself. You can set a timer for 2 minutes. How many times can you go from C to G in 2 minutes? Okay. There's 1, 2, 3. Maybe you can do it like 10 times. And then if you do it again, the next time, maybe it'll be 12 or 13. And I promise if you do that, you will get more repetitions in. Now, you don't want to push it so fast that you lose the quality of the sound. But that's basically how you work on transitions. Another good way to work on transitions, just so it's not a boring exercise, is just learn a bunch of songs. Like, learn simple songs. You can just Google it or ask AI. I'm not going to mention copyrighted music in a lot of these videos just because I don't want them to get demonetized, but there's a lot of simple songs that are only like 2 or 3 chords. So just work on those songs, and say you learn a song that's only like 2 or 3 chords. You will be good with those transitions. Like, say you work on a song that is G, C, D. Your transitions from G to C and C to D, and then probably C back to G, D to G, will all be better as a result of learning that song. So then you can learn a song that maybe they throw an A minor in there. So that's kind of how you gradually work your way up. You don't just try and learn every single chord, week 1. Pick a couple. Learn a song like good ones to start would be C, G, D. Those are in a lot of songs. A minor is in a lot of songs. E minor is a good one. But just keep in mind, the transitions is what most people struggle with. So keep in mind all those things that I said, and then just get in your repetitions. It might take you months of working on transitions, but if you do it, and like I said, if you time it, you can gather data, and I promise you it'll get better. But let me show you some chord changes that you can practice just to just kind of work on some of this stuff. So I'm going to play a C chord, then I'm going to play an F, and then a G. C, F, G, C. Now, when you play one of these mini chords like this, it's going to be basically impossible for you to mute all of the lower strings, okay? So it's going to be tricky to strum those chords. You just have to, you see what I'm doing with this F chord is I'm taking my middle finger and I'm having it touch the string below it a little bit. So I'm muting it there. And then if you look at my right hand, I'm not strumming everything. I'm coming up on an angle so that I miss those strings. So that's just something that you have to work on. But CFG is a very common chord progression, so you can try and strum them. Another common chord progression, A minor, D minor, E minor, A minor. You can do the same thing, but instead of playing E minor, play E major. I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to play E7 this time. Going back to my CFG, instead of playing G, I'm going to play G7. It's another very common chord progression. C, F, G7, C. Okay? Another common chord progression would be this. G, C, D. Or I could do G, C, D7. Let's do another one. D, G, A, D. That was what I played in the intro. D, G, A, D. Now I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to play A7 instead of A. D, G, A7, D. Another common chord progression would be this. E minor, A minor, B7, E minor, E minor, A minor, B7, E minor. Another common chord progression you can do with the blues is you can do E7, A7, B7, E7. Now, if you're familiar with 1-4-5s, that's what we're doing right now. I haven't covered it yet in the playlist, so that's why I'm not getting into theory. Eventually, I'll explain what this is, but basically, I'm playing 1-4-5s in a bunch of different keys. Now, if you're in the key of A, we have A major, D major, E major as your 1-4-5. A, D, E. The 5 chord you can always make dominant. That's why, just so you understand what I'm doing. So I have the 1 is A, D, E7 on the 5, 1. Okay. Same thing in a minor key. I might have already done this. A minor, D minor, E minor, A minor, A minor, D minor, E7, A minor. Let's try and do this. Let's take a chord progression that we already did, which was G, C, D, G. And let's try and play that using the movable chords. Okay? So I can play my G here, because it's a root 1, right? G, C, G, G sharp A sharp B, C, G, C, D, G. If I want to make the 5 chord dominant, I can go G, C, D7, G, G, C, D7, G. Here's another common chord progression, okay? A blues in the key of G. G7, C7, D7. I just want to clarify, G7 is not a key, okay? A lot of people, you'll hear people call it that. Oh, it's in the key of G7. That doesn't really make sense theoretically, but you'll hear people say that. So if they say, oh, it's a G7 blues, that's what you know. You got your 1, 4, 5, 1. Now I can try to do that with my movable chords. 1, 4, 5, 1. We did the 1-4-5 in the key of C. C, F, G, C. I can play it all with movable chords. C, F, G, C. It's a great way to learn where your shapes are. Now, let me just explain something briefly. I'll go more in depth in a later video. When you play a C major chord, there's a lot of, they call them different voicings for these chords. So look, I can play a C major chord like this. I'm just playing the bottom 3 strings. That's a C chord. I can play this. That's a C chord. I can play this. So there's all these different voicings, okay? And the idea behind the voicing is, again, just to give you a very, very brief summary here, is we're taking the notes of the chords and we're playing them in different registers, and we're playing them in different orders. Okay, so maybe you have the root on the bottom of the chord and the third on top. Okay, there's just different voicings, so I don't want to go more in depth with that for now. So, but what you can try to do with this is try to play those chord progressions that I showed you, and try to mix in some of these different voicings. Like, I got a C here, I got an F, I got a G, but I could also play this, C, F, G. And then instead of going back to my C, I could go up to this C. So I could go C, F, G, C. All right, so if I was in the key of D, I have D, G, A, D, D, G, A, D, right? You can go backwards. D, G, A, D, D, G, A. Just try and mix and match, because it's going to make your rhythmic playing a lot more interesting. That way you don't feel like you have to stay stuck at this end of the fretboard. Let's try some of the minors. So we did A minor, D minor. Let's throw the E7 in for the 5 chord this time, okay? So I have A minor, D minor I can play up here. E7 is right here. A minor, D minor. I can also just play the minor for the 5 chord, right? Or the major, or the dominant. The last time I didn't play a dominant, I played a major. I said dominant, but I played the major. So look, here's A minor, D minor, there's E7. And then look, I can even come up here. A minor, D minor, E minor open, right? Because if I can play this as E minor, behind the nut, I could also play it there. So let's try that one again. A minor, D minor, E minor, A minor. Let's try another key. Let's try G minor. So we're going to go G minor, C minor, D minor, G minor. Now we have an open voicing for D minor, so we can go G minor, C minor, D minor, G minor. Let's make the 5 chord dominant. G minor, C minor, D7, G minor, G minor, C minor, D7, G minor. So you should try and run through different chord progressions. Like as you're learning songs, when you go online and you print out chord charts of songs that you like, try to mix and match these voicings. And when you play the movable chords, as a beginner, it's going to be difficult because you probably don't have calluses. Like I said, you have to really crease your fingertip here. A lot of people struggle with that. And then maybe just getting all the notes to ring is hard. See, when I play this major chord here, I have to really be on my fingertips. If it sounds like this, you can hear that, and you can feel it too in the back part of your finger, right here. You can feel that it's muting the B string. Now, something that you should be aware of is when you're playing a chord, say you're playing a G minor chord, that note G is typically found in the bass. The bass would be the lowest note of the chord, okay? So I'll show you with the G major chord. See this note? If you recall the chromatic scale, E, E, F, F sharp, G, right? So that's what I mean when I say that typically the chord name is going to be in the bass. This is helpful for you to remember the chords. Like say you play a C chord. Look at our bass note here. It's this one. A sharp, B, C. If you look at our D chord, this is my bass note, my D string, which is D. Now, if you look at the F chord that I showed you, my bass note is this note, which is A. Okay, so this is one case where it doesn't apply, what I said about the bass note. It's typically the lowest note, but it doesn't have to be. Now, if you add in this note to the F chord, now we have the note of the chord in the bass, okay? So when you have the note of the chord in the bass, we call that root position. G, C, D, F, right? So pretty much every chord that I showed you is going to be root position. This B7, we got a B in the bass. So now I'm going to give you some general tips. If you're trying to learn these chords and you're having trouble, keep in mind you don't have to play the entire voicing. Like, see this C chord? That's a big voicing. I'm playing 5 strings. You could just play these 3, right? Do that for a little while. Once you get comfortable with that, put the next finger down. Make sure they're all ringing. Go to the next one. That's how I would approach it. And another thing that I want to emphasize here that a lot of beginners do wrong is, say you're playing the C chord. They go like this. So they start off by putting a high note down first, okay? Now, when you're learning, that's okay initially, because eventually you want to be able to just get all your fingers to move. See how they all move as a group here? Now, you're not going to be able to do that right away, but what I would recommend instead of putting this one down first would be put this one down first. Because if you put this one down first, see where my other fingers are? See how far away they are? It's going to take you a very long time to get to that chord. But if you put the bass note down first, it's just much easier. It's the same thing with the G chord. Don't put this one down and then go here. Put this one down. So the most important thing that you're probably going to struggle with as a beginner is just going from one chord to the next. Okay, so I call that the transitions between chords. So if I'm playing, say, a C chord, maybe I'm okay as long as I'm not moving, but as soon as I need to go somewhere, that's where the wheels come off the train. So what you want to do is try to get your bass notes down. Pay attention to which fingers are playing the bass note. Like if I'm going from C to G, I'm on my ring finger on C, then I'm going to my middle finger on G. See that? So you can just do the bass movement. Work on that. Then you can try adding in another finger. Once you can do that, you can try adding all of them in. Now, I just want to explain to you the way that these chord shapes are notated. Okay, so we have a major chord, and this is what the notation looks like for major. Typically, if you have a major chord, it'll just say the letter. It'll say C. A lot of people say, oh, it's a C chord. Strictly speaking, it's a C major chord. That's the proper name for it. So you may see it written as C. You might see C, M-A-J. You might see C with a little triangle. Now, generally, you're only going to see those when you see more complicated versions of the major chord, like a major 7. Or like a major 9 chord or something like that. Now, here's what a minor looks like. So a C minor is typically the letter, and then you have a lowercase m. But a lot of people will notate it C with a hyphen. That means minor as well. Now, in terms of the augmented chords, it's typically going to be the letter and then a plus sign. But you might also see the letter and then AUG. So for the diminished chord, you're going to see the letter and then a small circle near the top of the letter to the right of it. Or you might see the letter and then lowercase dim. So we talked about augmented chords a little bit. You can use an augmented chord as a substitute for the 5 chord. So say I'm playing a 1-4-5 in the key of G. If I'm going G, C, D, G, that was just major. Now I can go 1, 4, 5. Okay? What does it do? It just creates more tension. Okay? And I'll explain this more when we get into the theory of it. But if you're curious, that's how we would use an augmented chord in a simple way. All right, so let's talk about if you do have big fingers. Let's go through each chord and talk about what you could do as a substitute. So the A minor chord, if you can't get all of these notes, and by the way, you should try to get all the notes. You can also get a bigger scale guitar. So I'm not saying do this right off the bat. Try to do everything the proper way, but if you can't get it, you might be at an anatomical disadvantage, or it might even be impossible. I've seen people that have enormous fingertips. So look, if you can't get all of these strings, typically you could, if you take off the your ring finger on the G string, you could play something like this. So the G string is muted now by the flesh of my middle finger. You can play that for A minor. A7, you can probably get that one okay. What else is there? A major, that one's going to be a tough one, okay? Maybe what you could do for A major is just take off this finger, the middle finger, and then my ring finger is muting the D string. If you have a big finger, it'll probably mute it. So we're just not playing that string, okay? Now for the B7, see if you can get these 3 to ring. If you can get that, you should probably be okay. If not, you can take off your index finger. Now the D string's being muted by my middle finger. That's a reasonable proxy for B7. C major, you might not be able to get this note, the D string. So you can probably just take that finger off and mute the D string with your ring finger. Okay? C7, you might be able to get that, or you might have to take this finger off. D major, you can play just these 3, the D, the G, and the B string. Just those 3, and then this string will probably be muted by your ring finger. Or you can try it this way. So now my index finger is muting the B string. All right, D7. You can probably get that one. If you can't, you can take off your index finger. Now it's not really D7 anymore. It's the same chord that we played for D. D minor looks like this. This is a tough one. So if you take off your ring finger, you can play this. So you can have that B string is going to be muted. E minor, probably be fine with that one. E major, if you need to, you can take off your ring finger and let the D string get muted. Okay? Now, E7 might be tough to get that D string. Okay? If you can't get it, you can put your pinky here on the 3rd fret. That's a different voicing for E7. The F chord. This is probably going to be a tough one. You can just play the G string and the high E string. Okay, because the B string is probably going to be muted by your middle finger. Now with these mini, movable shapes, I'm not really going to have a good substitute for you, just because we have to make things a little bit more complicated. We have to play some of the other strings as a substitute for the strings that we're not playing. So those are not going to be as satisfactory. The minor you shouldn't have as much of a problem with. The augmented you'll probably have a problem with. And then the diminished, which was the same thing we did for the D7, but it's only 3. If you can do it for the D7, then you can do it for the diminished. Okay. All right, so let's talk about G. So G, you can play it like this. Just take your index finger off, let the A string get muted by your middle finger. There's a G. G7 looks like this. We're going to do the same thing. You can take off your middle finger, mute the A string here. There's a G7. All right, so I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, give me a comment, let me know if you have any suggestions. If you have an issue, you're trying to do something and you don't understand, just ask me in the comments and I'll try to help you. Thanks for watching. If you have any friends that are trying to learn to play guitar, do me a favor and let them know. Thanks.